Welcome back to another exciting episode of our COP29 podcast series Fossil Fuels, Renewable Energy, and Water Combating Climate Change in Azerbaijan. This podcast is brought to you in collaboration with Michigan State University and Impact Azerbaijan. I'm your host, Gulnara, in this episode. Joining us is a distinguished expert in environmental science, Professor Rovshan Abbasov from Khazar University in Azerbaijan. Dr. Abbasov is the head of Environmental Research Center at Khazar University and has over 15 years of academic and research experience in climate change, water management, and sustainability. His expertise extends beyond the classroom. He has worked with different UN agencies as a natural disaster risk and climate expert and currently serves on the multidisciplinary expert panel on biodiversity and ecosystem services in IPBS. Additionally, he's the Azerbaijani country coordinator for the Global Alliance for Health and Pollution. Dr. Abbasov was affiliated with Michigan State University as a Fulbright Humphrey Fellow. Rovshan Malim, go green!
Go white.
Today, we will explore how fossil fuels impact Azerbaijan's environment, the role of renewable energy innovations, such as wind and solar power, in transforming the energy landscape and the growing concern over water pollution and sustainability. We will also discuss key takeaway from COP29, Azerbaijan's climate commitments, and the step needed to adapt and mitigate climate risks. And we are thrilled to have him on the podcast. Let's get started. Okay, my first question is, how have fossil fuels impacted climate change globally, and what are the major environmental challenges countries are currently facing today?
So first of all, thank you for inviting me to this podcast, and I'm really happy. I am also MSU alumni, and I can consider myself as Spartan as well. So Michigan State University, I stayed there as a visiting scholar and Humphrey Fulbright Fellow as well, and visited Michigan State University many times, and I was a fellow in the Water Research Institute. And regarding your question, what I can say, of course, fossil fuel burning release carbon dioxide and several other greenhouse gases like methane, nitrogen oxide, and short-lived climate forces, which in turn reduce release of energy from the Earth's surface and results in increasing of the Earth's temperature, that's causing the global climate changes. So fossil fuels are the main object of now of the Paris Agreement, which was signed by almost all countries. According to the Paris Agreement, the countries need to cut their carbon emissions in order to mitigate global climate change. Azerbaijan, of course, one of the oil producing countries, but in terms of the amount, Azerbaijan is not big contributor of the greenhouse gases. Azerbaijan only mostly export its oil, and which is being used in territories of another countries. So also fossil fuels, along with other gases, cause other pollution of the atmosphere. For example, not only carbon dioxide, but also, as I said, nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, and a broad range of harmful gases can be emitted to the atmosphere and worsen air quality as well. So cutting off carbon emissions also will mean that we may, in the future, improve air quality as well, especially in big cities. And the rising global temperature, of course, cause again broad range of direct and side effects, heat waves, droughts, wildfires, extreme weather events, uh, many types of natural hazards. It causes water shortages, droughts in many countries, in turn causing food shortage as well. climate change cause environmental migration, climate-induced migration from rural areas because it results in reduction of the traditional incomes of population, and so people need to shift to other sources of income, mostly migrating to big cities and taking the other jobs like so that means that former farmers that were in charge of producing some food now becomes taxi drivers or housekeepers and different jobs they are employed, and so it caused both migration and also it increased pressure on big cities as well. And talking about climate change impacts, we can talk hours and hours. So at the university level, we have one course in which we talk nearly 4 or 5 months about impacts of climate change.
Yeah. I would like to move another question. So my next question is about what potential does Azerbaijan have for renewable energy, particularly in solar, wind, and hydro hydropower, and also like what steps should be taken to accelerate the adaptation of renewable energy in Azerbaijan's energy sector.
First of all, I want to talk about a bit more, maybe a bit more about major outcomes of COP29, uh, which was organized in Baku city, in my city. I was active participant of COP29 and had an access to the blue zone. I attended many country pavilions, attended different meetings, and it was really hard to get to reach the outcomes of the COP29. And of course, COP29 has achieved its major targets that developed countries are committed to mobilize about $3 billion, $300 billion every year by 2035 to assist developing countries in addressing climate change impacts and transitioning to sustainable energy sources. Of course, if we look at the list of countries, major emitters of the greenhouse gases, we see mostly China, United States of America, and India as well. So these three countries emits nearly 30% of the total greenhouse gases emitted by in the world. And many industrialized countries, like European countries, has are the big contributors of the global carbon emissions as well. So that means that industrialized countries should help the countries that have no direct that cannot be blamed in climate change because they don't have any direct impact on climate change. They are not source. They don't emit any greenhouse gases. That's why. But they have some broad range of negative externalities because the small and poor nations like located in Africa, in Asia, uh, um, so have negative externalities in the form of droughts, hazards, different types of natural hazards that disrupt traditional lifestyle of people, as I said, causing migration, causing death, causing loss and damage. So that's why developing countries, this type of poor countries, need help from need assistance from developed world, and one of the major goals of the COP29 was to increase, to mobilize annual yearly funds up to $300 billion by 2035. And
What
of
about
course,
I mean the potential of Azerbaijan for renewable energy? Like particularly in solar, wind, and hydropower?
Azerbaijan has big sources of renewable energies. As we know that Azerbaijan is located on the coastline area, the coastline area of the Caspian Sea. So Azerbaijan has wind resources because Caspian Sea surface is quite flat, and Baku, my city, is considered to be windy city. So we have huge resources of wind resources. Also, Azerbaijan has some hydropower energy resources as well. For example, installed capacity of all the hydropower stations in Azerbaijan is quite big, and it contribute nearly 10% of the total energy to the total energy production in Azerbaijan. Solar energy is Azerbaijan has also solar energy resources near 300 megawatts solar the solar station with total capacity of 300 megawatt has been constructed in Azerbaijan. So we have in central Azerbaijan we have big resources of solar energy in Nakhchivan area as well. So Azerbaijan can be a big producer of the renewable energy in the future. So the government has a program to make Azerbaijan as green hydrogen exporter in the future. So it can be exported instead of oil and gas to the developed nations, and to, let's say, to European countries, to traditional partners like Italy, Israel, and Germany. So Azerbaijan has quite big plans on that, and we have really big resources.
Yeah, I would like also to move this question that like about government policy and incentive that help attract investment in renewable energy projects. So I believe that like government work on this program very closely. Can you tell a little bit more about it, renewable energy projects in future, like how can government
First of all,
policies and
yes, thank you very
intensive.
much. First of all, I want to give you an information about nationally determined contribution of Azerbaijan, which is called NDC document to the Paris Agreement, Paris Convention, and to UNFCCC. Azerbaijan in this currently updated its NDC, nationally determined conditions, setting new goals. New goal, which means that we Azerbaijan must reduce total greenhouse gas emissions by 35% by 2030. So we don't have much time for that, and this goal is quite ambitious. So, but how to cut these emissions? Of course, Azerbaijan has a strategic roadmaps to increase renewable energy outputs in its territory, reducing in the future oil and gas production as well. This is the first thing. First thing I want to say, that in that direction, that Azerbaijan in NDC is quite ambitious and very close to the European documents, European pledges. So it's possible that in the future Azerbaijan will update its NDC again. So solar energy, hydropower, wind energy, and green energy, green hydrogen production set as a main priority in the country, and so it will improve also air quality in big cities of Azerbaijan, making Azerbaijan more and more green country.
As water expert, my next question about water pollution in Azerbaijan and how severe is the issue of water pollution in Azerbaijan and what are its main causes?
First of all, I want to talk a bit about Azerbaijan's geographical position. Azerbaijan is a downstream country located in downstream part of the Kura Basin, and which means that we get most of the resources, nearly 70% of total water resources from upstream countries, from Turkey, Georgia, Armenia, and Iran. So day by day, maybe year by year, the input of the water from upstream countries is getting reduced because we have increased demand on water in upstream countries, also increased impact of climate change on the water resources of Azerbaijan and nearby countries, which means that Azerbaijan will have double effect of climate change effects in on its territory and in the territory of neighboring countries. So Azerbaijan, the water future Azerbaijan can be quite stressed. According to the national assessments, Azerbaijan can be counted as a water stressed country by 2040. So by 2070, if we'll have the same, let's say, scenario, let's say business as usual scenario, by 2070, Azerbaijan may lose all of its water resources. Will withdraw all water from our water sources that will not be enough to meet our demands. So Azerbaijan needs to make quite rapid shift to water-saving technologies.
You already mentioned several issues like upcoming challenges we may face in future. Um, I would like to learn more about like what are the most effective adaptation and mitigation strategies in Azerbaijan, like should implement to combat climate change, and also how local communities and businesses play in supporting the transition to a more sustainable and climate resilience future.
In terms of mitigation, Azerbaijan government aims to increase, as I said, share of renewables in total electricity production in the future to 30% by 2030, and but new NDC considers to increase that to reduce national emissions by 35% by 2030 and 40% by 2040. So this really ambitious goal, and this target includes plans to integrate solar and wind energy production into the national energy systems as well. That's why quite big investments are being made into the renewable energy production in Azerbaijan over the last 10 years, and share of renewable resources is getting increasing. This is the first, and Azerbaijan tries to involve foreign investments as well to put more and more investments to its renewable energy sector, and that's why the government offers different types of tax incentives, such as exemptions from income generated from private electricity production by residential consumers, and tax breaks for renewable energy producers engaged in public-private partnerships of power purchase agreements. And of course, but we have another problem. Share of hydropower production is getting reduced due to reduced water resources. So Azerbaijan rivers are not, let's say, well supplied by water as they were before, let's say 30 years ago. That's why share of the hydropower energy is getting reduced. This is the second one. And also, I want to talk a bit about national adaptation plan of Azerbaijan. So national adaptation plan of Azerbaijan thus has been updated, and Azerbaijan, it considers very, very specific activities to reduce greenhouse to reduce direct and indirect impacts of climate changes into the national economy. It considers major sectors as water sector, agricultural sector, and coastline areas. In water sectors, government has developed quite broad range of strategies, roadmaps to shift from traditional irrigation to new irrigation methods and to reduce water losses, also to shift to the more water resilient agriculture. And in agricultural sector, Azerbaijan tries to reduce water use and increase share of waterless agriculture in total production as well.
So it was great to learn experience from Azerbaijan on fossil fuels, renewable energy, and water issues we face in general. Thank you for joining.